Joining me on the phones right now, GOP political strategist, co-founder of MustReadTexas.com, Matt Mackowiak. Matt, good morning. How are you?
Hey, Chad. Good morning. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well. Thanks for coming on today. Appreciate it, as always. It was supposed to be, on the political scene, probably a quiet weekend, as both campaigns had previously agreed to not campaign on 9/11, and it was probably going to be a quiet weekend. But Hillary Clinton stumbled on Saturday by saying that half of Trump supporters are in the basket of deplorables, and then on Sunday she had a medical, I'd say, crisis as far as the campaign goes, with her nearly collapsing and being announced that she has pneumonia, and I don't know how many people actually even believe that. So let's take a look at first the health issue. How big is this now for Hillary Clinton and the Democrats? How big of a problem is it?
Yeah, look, I think we have to see kind of what happens here, but obviously this consumed what would have been a pretty solemn 15th anniversary of 9/11. And, the irony here is, for the last few weeks, most of the sort of conspiratorial talk about Hillary's health has been reserved for, what you might call the fever swamps of the alt-right. And it hasn't really been included in broader conversation, sort of the mainstream media. And so, Trump has been talking about Hillary not having the strength and the stamina to make America great again. And, if Hillary had just left that event as she did, and if we had to take the Secret Service's word for it, or the Clinton campaign's word for it, that would have been one thing. They would have said she got overheated, and that would have been all. That would have basically been it. The fact that a citizen took a video of her entering into the Secret Service van was a game changer for the entire news story. And it's clear that on Monday she had a coughing fit that she blamed on allergies. On Friday, she obviously made the basket of deplorables comment at a private fundraiser in New York. And then on Sunday, she attended this event, left early, walked out towards a van, and had to be sort of, it almost looked like Weekend at Bernie's almost. She had to be sort of helped to remain standing, and as she tried to get in the van, she had this little, she kind of almost slipped and fell, and really it looked like she was really not well.
Right.
And so, look, everyone wants all our elected officials and candidates for office to be doing well and fully recover if they have health challenges. The issue here now is really one of transparency, because it's pretty clear that she may just have pneumonia, or she may have some more debilitating condition, and no one will ever know unless she fully releases her medical records. And that's where the story goes, I think, now, over the next couple of days. The focus is going to be on the Clinton campaign providing more information on perhaps making her doctor available. Hillary canceled the trip to the West Coast, which was supposed to be today and tomorrow. So, exactly how serious this is remains to be seen, but the Clinton campaign has demonstrated a pretty bold desire to misinform and lie to the press about her health situation and not be transparent over the last couple of years. Their word's not good enough anymore. They're going to have to start answering these questions themselves, and so it puts Hillary on defense, and it actually puts Trump and the media on the same side, which again you don't see very often.
It seems like to me that the Clinton campaign, and maybe even the Trump campaign, could have gotten by in this election without releasing health records. Trump announced, it was either this morning or yesterday, that they were going to release medical records. He just had a physical done, so they were going to release those. For Hillary, I mean, are they at the point where they have to release medical records, you think?
Yeah, I put this on Twitter yesterday. I mean, I think if Trump really wanted to go on offense here, and of course you want to be a little bit careful. You don't want to make it look that you're politicizing her health scare. But if he really wanted to go on offense, he could provide his medical records to an independent third party. I suggested the Washington, D.C. bureau chief of the Associated Press, but you could, I'm sure, come up with another acceptable alternative, and then call on Hillary to release her medical records. It's not just that she had a faint. She had this coughing spell on Monday, and then she fainted yesterday in New York. It's also that she had a blood clot in late 2012 that prevented her from testifying in front of the Benghazi committee that took her away from work for what I remember was maybe 2 weeks. And there's been all kinds of speculation about that being more serious perhaps than it was, and there may be some debilitating conditions associated with that. We don't know. No one knows. The only people that know is probably a very, very, very small circle surrounding Hillary and her doctor, and of course, Hillary and Bill and Chelsea. Those are the only people that really know. And so, I think Trump apparently told Fox and Friends this morning that he did just have a physical done, that he's going to release the record, the results of that physical. My guess is he doesn't want to go back 30 or 40 years and provide all his medical records, and I can perhaps understand that, but. I don't think this is as much about Trump as it is about Hillary.
Yeah.
Trump doesn't have these coughing fits. He hasn't fainted at a public event. He never had a blood clot that prevented him from testifying in front of Congress. Again, transparency. I think both candidates should put their medical records out. I think Trump should release his tax returns. I've said that for over a year. But the problem right now is Hillary's health is uncertain. We don't know what the situation is. The voters have a right to know, and she's now had a couple things happen in public that raise questions. And honestly, the Clinton campaign has badly mishandled this from the beginning, saying that she was coughing because of allergies, not disclosing that she was diagnosed with pneumonia on Friday, hiding her for an hour yesterday when she left that event. They're just not. Their willingness to lie and obscure the truth from the press and from the public, I think, is bordering on something we haven't seen in 30 or 40 years. And in this case, it finally caught up to them.
Visiting with Matt Mackowiak. Matt, we've seen pictures of people helping Hillary upstairs before. You bring up her blood clot. There was the FBI report where she had forgotten because of a concussion that she had. She had forgotten some of the things, some of the briefings. You add all of this up. If there is something that beyond pneumonia, and we're just speculating here, but if there is something that is worse, if they release this health report, how does that impact at least the voting public? What do voters do at that point, you think?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, it's hard for me to imagine a large number of voters saying Hillary's not really, really, really healthy, so I'm not going to vote for her. I don't know that health is a voting issue, but I think transparency is, and even more important, the question is, is Hillary on offense today, or is Trump on offense? And who's on defense is perhaps more important. I don't necessarily think Trump's on offense. He's actually been pretty restrained in the last 24 or 48 hours, which is not necessarily the way he likes to do things. But Hillary's on defense, her team's on defense. They're getting hit with questions like you wouldn't believe today, and that's going to keep going until they start providing more information. So I think, this is the biggest question in Washington today, as the Jake Sherman and Anna Palmer wrote in the Politico Playbook this morning, is will this health scare impact her negatively in the polling this week? That is a big question. And keep in mind, this is probably the last week before the Presidential Commission on Debates has to decide whether Gary Johnson's going to be included. He's only been 2 or 3 or 4 points below the 15% threshold. So, again, I don't necessarily think it's a voting issue, but I think it does put some attention on Hillary in a way that she doesn't, in an area where she doesn't want attention. She doesn't want to be talking about her health or her past problems. She wants to be trying to make Donald Trump seem scary.
Right.
And right now she can't do that because her entire campaign's on defense over these issues and over transparency.
The health issue did overshadow a comment like you said that she made Friday night. What was it, a private fundraiser or a fundraiser where she said that half of Donald Trump's supporters are in the basket of deplorables, and she defined that as being people who are sexist, racist, bigoted, homophobic. Just anything that you could imagine. She walked back those comments on Saturday, but these are the type of comments that have hurt past former presidential candidates when they lump a large group of people into a pool, right?
Yeah, campaigns are about addition, not about subtraction, and in this case, if you imagine Trump gets 55 or 60 million votes in November, which is entirely plausible, she may be essentially insulting 25 or 30 million people with a broad brush. Look, there's no question that there's a slice of the Trump support base that is sort of in the alt-right, that is nationalistic, that is racist. There's no question that there's a slice of that. There's also a slice on the left that wants to, blow up SUV dealerships because they think they're bad for the environment. There are extremes on both sides. She did make a mistake, I think, in not just in the phrasing she used, but in describing, half of his supporters as being, quote, deplorable. Again, it's a reminder of really sort of the inherent weakness of her campaign and of her candidacy. She's not smooth. When she speaks off the cuff, she makes lots of mistakes. And it's part of why they've run an extremely cautious campaign this entire year. They've been much better on the attack. But in this case, she kind of went off script. Apparently she had said this same thing a few weeks ago. I saw there was an earlier report in Politico about her using this exact term, and it just didn't get attention. In this case, it was a private fundraiser, but they did allow press in for a short period of time, and that's why her comments became news. So Trump is on offense on this. They have an ad up today that they put out about it. He's trying to make it sound like everyone that supports him is seen as deplorable by Hillary. It's a great opportunity for him to sort of assert the higher ground, and I think we haven't heard the last of this.
Matt Mackowiak, GOP political strategist, co-founder, mustreadtexas.com. Matt, what can folks find on your website today?
Yeah, I'll just cite one story that was, I think, an important story written by Brian Rosenthal of the Houston Chronicle over the weekend, which really is kind of an investigative story about how the state handles special needs children. And in some cases, they've been failing special needs children by preventing them from getting into special education, which is expensive at the public school level. You can find that article from the Houston Chronicle, all the top news, opinion, and blog at Texas at mustreadtexas.com.
All right. Follow Matt at Matt Mackowiak on Twitter as well. Matt, as always, appreciate your time.
Have a great week, Chad. Take care.
You too.